All right, so that's kind of a tough question. Like, all right, let's see. The difference between theater and filmmaking, for me, I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like, I can't, yeah, I mean, obviously I can't speak for anybody else, but, I mean, first of all, you know, I'm a solo theater artist, so it's different than an experience of working with an ensemble. And, you know, filmmaking and theater are very similar in that way, you know, where you have a team, you know, like in theater, you have a lighting person, a set designer, and, you know, you have sound people, and you have this whole team, your director, your dramaturg, you have all kinds of people involved. You know, it's not just throw a bunch of people up there, memorize their lines, and do a play. But a solo play is a little bit different. Even though you can still have all those elements, I find it to be much, much different because, you know, it's kind of like being a fighter. You know, like you can have all the stuff in the world that you want. You know, you can have all the ingredients to this beautiful meal that you're putting together. But if you're a solo artist, once you get on that stage, like a fighter, no matter who trained you, no matter what plan you came up with to battle this person in front of you, and, you know, you've learned his tendencies or her tendencies, and, you know, no matter what your plan is, once you get up on that stage, you're all by yourself. Like, that's it. You know, it's you and the audience. And that's a thing, you know. And I think filmmaking, and again, I'm speaking for myself because I don't have a team. You know, I'm creating this work alone. You know, like I don't have anybody helping me at all. You know, I mean, I am having other people do the music because you know, like I did the music to a miniseries that I created, and I actually worked with a cinematographer on that. But that was more of just a performance video. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't. In my mind, it wasn't a movie, you know, it wasn't a series, even though we cut it up into 4 episodes, you know, and kind of made it like a mini series. It really wound up just being a performance video, which I'm so grateful to have it. And that's part of the reason that I love, you know, this form of art is that it's documented forever. You know, like when I die, you know, when I'm gone, I don't have kids or anything like that. Like, people are going to be able to look at that and go, oh, okay, that's what he did. You know, that's what he was about. Like, that's a thing. That's a big difference between, what? Well, no, I'm just saying. That's the big difference between, all right, what? The immediacy? Okay, so the thing about filmmaking and theater both, I think, is that if the story doesn't feel immediate, then it's not good. You know, like it has to feel like this is happening right now for the first time ever, you know, to the actor and to the audience. You know, it has to feel like that. Even if you're making a documentary, I believe, it has to be like you're revealing this for the first time ever. But certainly in a narrative story, has to be like right now in the present. We're right here. This is happening in real time. It's never happened before. It's never going to happen again. This moment is magic. This moment is it. Like we all have to be present for this moment right now. And so in that way, theater and filmmaking they're exactly the same. But the difference is, I believe, legacy. Yeah. Okay, so theater. You know, it lives in your mind forever. You know what I mean? But it's like anything else. You know, life is brutal, right? Like life just keeps moving. And so no matter what happens, it's kind of like when you lose somebody, you know, when somebody dies in your life, or you lose your dog, or, you know, you lose something that just absolutely obliterates your heart. And as time goes by, the way you feel about that changes. You know, as much as, you know, people don't like to admit it sometimes, time does change the way you feel. You know, I remember you know, after my grandmother died, my grandmother was the closest person to me in the world. Yeah. Like she was the only person in my life who felt like blood, like really like blood, right? And I remember about 2 years went by, and I was sitting in Central Park and I was thinking about her. And I was like, I couldn't picture her face. And I mean, literally, I know it sounds weird. No, I'm being serious. Like I could not, I was closing my eyes and I couldn't, like I was like trying to meticulously put her together in my head and I just couldn't do it. You know, and this was my person, like the closest person to me in the world. And I couldn't put her back together. It was like a puzzle, you know, it was like a box with all these puzzle pieces that had fallen on the floor and I couldn't put them back together. And it was killing me, you know, because I realized that this is going to sound weird, but I realized that it didn't hurt as much anymore, you know, like, I mean, you know, even thinking about it now is really hard for me. But it doesn't feel anything like what it felt like when that actually happened. And that made me mad. It made me angry. And maybe that's what I'm feeling right now. You know, it made me kind of angry that I was forgetting the devastation of the moment when she was gone. You know, when it happened in that moment. I couldn't remember that. You know, like I could. Well, no, obviously I literally remember, right? But I couldn't remember, like in my chest. You know, just, and to think about making film, you know, making a story that's not on the stage, is that, you know, like you can keep that moment forever. You know, you can have it. It can happen over and over and over again. This beautiful moment that you could create in a story. Like I just saw a series on HBO called Station 11, and you know, I've talked about it. No, I've talked about it before a lot, because it was so profound for me. But there's a moment that happens in the final episode that personally I feel like is like one of the most beautiful moments in the history of cinema. You know, not that I've seen every movie ever made, but I think it was certainly one of the most beautiful things that I have ever seen. And it was a totally silent moment, and you had to have watched the whole story, all 7 episodes leading up to that moment to be able to receive it in that way, fully. In the way that I'm sure they intended for you to receive it. Like, you had to live that whole life with them. Excuse me. Like, I had to live my whole life with my grandmother to feel the way I felt that day that she passed, you know. And it wasn't even a surprise. She had been sick for a few weeks, but, you know, like, that's a beautiful thing about film that I've discovered, you know, and it's you know, I found it so late in my life now. Like, I've done so much, you know, I've had multiple careers, you know, I've done a lot. I've been a lot of different things. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, a lot of people who know me, they go, Rock Wilk, man, he's a lot. I've done a lot of different things, but where I am right now, it's so heavy for me, because while I'm doing stuff, I'm realizing like this can last forever. And it's almost opposite of what I felt in the theater. Like when I was doing my first play, and I've talked about this before too. I've talked about this, like, what? 2000, I started doing it in 2007, but it ran off Broadway in 2012. So I remember somebody wanted to make a video of it, and I didn't allow it. Well, no, I'm going to tell you why. And I regret it now, but, you know, I didn't allow it because I felt like you know, theater is immediate. Theater is right now. Like what's happening now, that's what's beautiful about theater. That's what's amazing about it. You know, it's a fleeting moment. It's like real life. It's like walking out on the street. It's like being on the bus, it's like being on the train. It's like being at the Yankee game or being at a restaurant or just hanging out with your friends in the park. You know, it's just like, it's real, you know, it's tangible. Like I'm in this like sacred performance space, whether it be on the street or in a big theater. Like I'm in this space with these people receiving the story. You know, this audience of all kinds of different people from all over the world, you know, all who speak different languages and are different religions and races and colors and, you know, everything. And we're all experiencing this moment together, and it's never going to be here again. And even though I'm going to do that play over and over and over again every night, maybe for months, you know, in some cases people do that for years. Every single night is totally unique. Like only the people who were there that night get to have that. And so I didn't want to record it because I felt like if we make a video, if we make a film about this play, it's only going to be representative of this night. And I feel like I'm leaving everybody out who's watched me do this play for 6 years. I didn't want to leave anybody out. And I didn't want this one night to represent this living, breathing thing that theater is, that play, Broke Wide Open, was, you know, and still is in a lot of people's minds. But I regret it because it was a beautiful collaboration. You know, it was like I had this incredible mural behind me. I had unbelievable lighting design that made me look like a hologram on stage. Like I had all this stuff. I had a scaffold that my director, Stephen Bishop Seeley, came up with this great idea, and I wound up with this scaffold on stage, this old, rusted out, broken down 6-foot scaffold that I used to dance with and swirl around and throw all over the place and hurl it against the brick wall. And it was just, you know, one reviewer compared it to Wilson from that Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. You know, he had a relationship with his volleyball, and I had a real relationship with this scaffold and with these people in this mural. And so anyway, yeah, no, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was Jason Cicino and Lee Alston, two brothers who created that mural. And even their process to make that mural was amazing, you know, just amazing. Two brothers coming together to spend like 6 months creating this 25-foot masterpiece. So yeah, I have pictures and stuff like that, but I don't have a recording of that play. And I do regret that, but at the same time, that is the essence of theater, for real. You know, like that's what it's about to me, in my opinion. But film is a different medium. You know, film, like when you're putting it down, you're thinking like, I want this to be something that represents this story well forever. For everybody who happens to see it, and for people who want to go back and look at it again and again, I need for every single moment in this to be representative, because it's not gonna, like, you don't have to live the rest of your life and go, you know, I love that movie so much. Like in my case, I love this movie Cinema Paradiso so much, but I own the film. I can watch it. Like I watch it once a year because I think it's the greatest movie ever made, in my opinion. The score, you know, Ennio Morricone, the film, the acting, the story, everything, you know, it was just a beautiful story, but I can watch it whenever I want. I can't, you know, I don't have to sit here and go, oh man, I saw that movie in like, you know, 1991 or whatever, and I can never see it again. You know, like you could read the script to Broke Wide Open, but you can't relive that moment. And I could relive movies over and over again. And so, what's my point? What are you asking me? Okay. What I love so much about film, what I love so much about working with a camera, you know, like this tool that is like a paintbrush, you know, it's like a pencil, you know, it's like carving in stone. It's something that is like, that goes back to prehistoric ages, you know, documenting something that's going to live forever, like the pyramids, you know, it's something that is a great responsibility because you can make it and it's going to be out there forever. For as long as technology allows, people are going to go back and be able to watch it. And so what I love most about it is that I can make work, art, and I can live forever, kind of. Like, I'm here. I was here. And there's proof, you know. And the story that I thought was important enough to spend all this time making and using my Panasonic S5 or my phone for the other movie, or, you know, these microphones that I get, or lights, or go to these locations, or do this crazy stuff that people do to make films. Like, people, filmmakers and theater makers too, but filmmakers are crazy. Like, they do crazy shit to make these stories, you know, like dangerous, crazy stuff, but they want to bring what's in here to life and put it here in front of you so that you can see it and then you can feel it, you know. And I love that I can document it, you know. I love that I can do it and it's here forever. So, you know, I didn't just like, I mean, I was lucky. Say what? Okay, so I got into it because of the pandemic. You know, I was supposed to open a play, it got canceled, obviously. You know, I'd worked on that play for like 2.5 years. And so I decided to make a movie, which was crazy because I had no idea what I was doing. But I got into it and it became like this spiritual journey for me. You know, I started to realize what I was doing and what it meant and what the possibilities of it were so grand. It wasn't for, like, I'm putting this play together for this 2-week run that I'm doing at Pregonis Theater or the Public Theater or whatever. Like, no, I'm making something that people are going to be able to look at forever. Like, you know, people who know me, if they have kids or grandkids or whatever, those people can go, what was that guy about? And there it is. You know, it's not just stories. That's why I love storytellers so much. And, you know, my grandmother, my father, they were great storytellers. And I think, you know, people who are great storytellers are so valuable for our culture, you know, for any culture, for society in general. But filmmaking takes that to another level because, you know, sometimes stories through generations change too. But I have the opportunity to create something that will never change. That's what it is. It might be perceived differently according to the way culture changes. And it might be something that is celebrated as, you know, magnificent at one time, and then it might be looked at as, you know, horrible another time. Like, who knows? But it is what it is. It's there, you know. It is kind of like a barometer for how society changes too, you know, and how technology changes and how filmmaking changes and how art changes and how society changes and how people receive stories. And I just, you know, I look at it as a great gift and as an unbelievable opportunity to stamp my life, you know, to imprint myself on this earth, because, you know, we're here for a short time when you think about it, you know. Like, recently I saw this video with Eddie Murphy talking about, you know, probably only have like 20 summers left. And when I thought about that, I was like, damn, I wish I had never heard that. Because, you know, even though nothing is promised, but if you live, you know, the life expectancy, you know, you start to count it down when you're grown, and when you're, you know, past 50, 60, 40, whatever, like even when you're past 30 or 40 years old, you're half done probably. So we're here for a short amount of time. To me, this is something that is making the most of that time, like creating something and then leaving it here, you know? So yeah, some people feel that way about their kids or whatever, but you know, your kids, and I don't have kids, so, you know, I'm just speaking out of my behind right now, but, you know, you have them until they're probably like 11 or 12 years old. Then they become their own people, you know, you can't, and they change, and, you know, they go through their own lives and transitions, and so you might think you're leaving yourself, and certainly you're leaving a part of yourself here, but, you know, when you make art, when you write a book, when you make a film, when you make a sculpture, a painting, you know, but when it's something that is recordable, it's here forever. And man, that matters. Like, to me, somebody who was adopted, you know, came out of foster care, like somebody who was separated from his biological mother at birth, you know, like, think about that. Like, you know, I've had all this anxiety my whole life. You know, I've always had this thing where, you know, I was afraid of being invisible, you know, of not mattering, of just taking up space, like nobody cares about me, you know. And I always have this like weird feeling, you know, of being alone, you know, being so solitary, just being all by myself. And when I make this work, you know, it reminds me that I'm around all these people and all these things, and I come up with these stories in my head, and it's just like a jolt that, you know, makes me realize that I'm not alone. I'm not here by myself. Like I wouldn't, you know, these stories are filled with empathy. That's what I go from. I start from empathy. And so they're not even about, even though some of these stories are about me, they're not about me, really. You know, like I've always felt like a great play or a great film or any great story is only great when it's about everybody. You know, it's got to be relatable. It's got to be something that people, you know, feel has something to do with them, that it resonates with them, that it's reminiscent of something that brings out these feelings that make them think about their own lives and their own people and their own experiences. And for me, that's what my work gives me, and filmmaking, you know, making movies now really kind of ups the power of that, you know, because I can look at it, you know, and also every moment that I work on it is so important to me because I don't want to miss any opportunity in any frame. I want to make every frame look like a painting, you know. I want to make every word mean something. I want to make every moment move the story forward and be really important, and hopefully allow me to connect with whoever I am fortunate enough to share it with when it's done. Because the beautiful thing about art, whether it's theater, film, music, whatever, in my opinion at least, the most beautiful part is that we get to share it with other people. And that makes us all a part of one another. And that's all I want. You know, I want to make a contribution, and I want documentation that I was here, that I didn't just take up space, you know, that my existence mattered in some kind of way. So did I answer your question? I know you know, anybody who knows me knows I don't know how to tell short stories, so I apologize, but that's cool. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.